let's take a look then at the Treaty of Versailles. The context of this, the Versailles Peace Conference, so this is where the winners of World War I get together and decide what's going to happen to Germany. So at the Versailles Peace Conference, France, Britain and the USA met to discuss the peace terms to end World War I. The USA wanted to be lenient because they believed that a strong Germany was essential for Europe's economy. They also wanted to continue to grow their economy through trade, so wanted Germany to be strong in order to do this. What's worth considering here is America had had a very different experience in World War I to Britain and France. For one, they only joined the war in 1916, so had been in the war for less time. The other thing is it's a completely different continent, so they have not been decimated like Europe has by World War I. So they have a very different interpretation and experience of World War I. So they're not massively out for revenge against Germany. They want to punish them, but not massively harshly, because they want to continue to trade and grow. France, however, had been defeated by Germany in the Franco-Prussian Wars 50 years previously, and they see the Versailles Peace Conference as an opportunity to get revenge against Germany. They've been attacked by Germany twice in the last 50 years, so now they want to make sure it never ever happens again. They want to destroy Germany and make sure they wouldn't attack again. Britain's position on it is somewhere between the two. They are more moderate. Whilst Germany weren't invited to the conference, they did expect sympathy and leniency because it's a new government in charge of Germany. It's not the Kaiser anymore who had taken them into the war. This is bolstered, this belief that they will be treated leniently was bolstered by Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. So what does the treaty actually say? Well, we can remember what the Treaty of Versailles says by the initialism UBRAT, unfair, blame, reparations, army and territory. So unfair. What made the Treaty of Versailles unfair? Germany, for one, weren't invited to the peace conference. That means they get no say in the terms of the agreement. That means it is a diktat, a dictated peace. D-I-K-T-A-T, a diktat, massively important word. It's a dictated peace. Germany get no say in it. Germany were being told the peace terms, not asked, and there is no negotiation. Simply take it or leave it. It was being done to them, not with them, and they are being forced to accept it. It is imposed without negotiation or compromise. In addition to that, blame. Germany has to accept all blame for World War I, even though World War I started because all the countries tried to build up their armies, all the countries tried to build up their empires, all the countries tried to build up their militaries, and all the countries tried to prove they were the best. Germany has to accept full blame that it was all their fault, even though in reality it wasn't. This is called Article 231, the War Guilt Clause. This is one of the probably the most resented amongst the German people, because it simply means that Germany have to accept all blame for starting World War I. All countries had tried to build empires before the war and establish their supremacy. So why did Germany have to take all responsibility for it? Germany, from a German point of view, the war was self-defense. So therefore Britain, France and Russia would have to take the blame as well. The reason for this Article 231 and blame, the reason that's so important is once Germany accept or are forced to accept the blame for starting World War I, this opens the door for the idea of reparations, Germany having to pay compensation to the victors. So this was set at £6.6 billion, a completely unreasonable amount, left Germany with long-term intergenerational debt. This would continue for decades, Germany having to pay these reparations to rebuild France and the other allies, but particularly France, because they're the country that's been most damaged by World War I. So the fact that Germany has to accept blame opens the door to reparations, compensation payments. Germany had suffered badly because of the war and was in no position to make annual reparation payments. For example, they'd lost around 10% of industry and 15% of agricultural land. So everyone suffered as a result of World War I. But in addition to that, because Germany have lost, or rather the Weimar government has surrendered, they now have to pay this massive payment annually to 6.6 billion total, split into annual payments they have to pay to France. In addition to that, the German army is going to be limited. The military terms threaten to destroy Germany's status as a great power and leave Germany vulnerable to attack from neighbours. Remembering, one of the reasons the war started was because the countries built up their armies to establish their supremacy, and this belief in nationalism and having the best army showed you were the best country. So this is embarrassing for Germany. It damages the prestige of Germany, destroys the country's status as a great power, and leaves them vulnerable to attack from neighbours because all the countries around Germany have larger armies. So effectively, this limiting Germany's army is a way to try and stop them from ever expanding again. The army was limited to 100,000, 6 battleships, and they were allowed no submarines or aircraft. In addition to that, there are territorial terms of the treaty, because remembering, land equals power because you get the resources from the land. So Germany loses around 13% of its land. The Rhineland, the area between France and Germany, is demilitarized because it's where Germany had used to attack France previously, and it will be occupied by the Allies for French peace of mind, as it's the part of the country which shares the border with Germany. Alsace and Lorraine, which Germany had taken or obtained from France in the Franco-Prussian Wars, had to be given back to France. Germany also lost the Saar, and African and Far East colonies which provided raw materials were also taken from Germany. This all causes a loss of income. Noting that Alsace and Lorraine, when that's a clear message from France, this is revenge for the Franco-Prussian Wars of 50 years previously. Land lost to Poland created the Polish corridor, separating Germany into two, East Prussia from the rest of Germany. The Polish corridor obviously giving Poland access to the sea, once again strengthening the countries around Germany. The reaction to these terms in Germany then? Well, complete shock really. Although beaten, most German people had believed the terms would be reasonable. As I said before, it was the Kaiser Wilhelm II, who had taken Germany into the war, so they expected lenient terms now that he was no longer in power. They got rid of the Kaiser and replaced him with a democratic government, so it was thought that the Allies and the United States would be sympathetic and that the treaty would be fair, as had been promised by US President Woodrow Wilson and his 14 points. That 14 points, one thing in there being that countries would establish a League of Nations. There's complete shock. The terms of the treaty were extremely severe. This resulted in a blaze of protest in the German press. They cannot believe the terms. They recognise as soon as this treaty comes out, it will damage Germany for a long time to come. This leads to mob violence, especially in Berlin and Hamburg. The new German government, the Weimar government, is forced to accept the terms. Germany has no choice in this. The Weimar government has to accept the terms or risk Allied occupation, as in France, Britain, America would have a military presence in Germany. So the Weimar government has no choice but to accept. The government, therefore, is blamed by many Germans, especially Hitler and the Nazis and lots of German people. So the Weimar government then gets the nickname the November criminals. This leads to a growth in the stab in the back myth, or Dolchstoss, as in this belief that the German army never actually lost the war. They were stabbed in the back by their own government, who were basically cowards and betrayed the people of Germany. It was the Weimar government, therefore, is seriously undermined by these harsh terms and is in a very difficult situation, basically from the moment it starts, because the first thing it has to do is accept the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which is going to damage the economy and leave Germany struggling to recover. The German people had many objections to the treaty. For example, the treaty is simply unswallowable. Germany feel trapped, both literally and metaphorically. They are their army is limited to 100,000, and all the countries around them have larger armies, with the purpose being, they've made Germany weaker and the countries around Germany stronger to box Germany in. What this means is Germany has lost all this land and territory around them, and this creates a desire for revenge. The name for this policy or this belief is revanchism. This means trying to get land back which once belonged to you. The treaty caused great animosity and resentment within Germany. From peace eventually comes war. It's very apparent as soon as this treaty is signed, that this probably won't be a long-lasting peace. In the end, the terms set out were incredibly harsh and created bitterness and resentment and a desire for vengeance amongst the German populations, partly towards their own government, for some, especially some nationalists who will never warm to the idea of the Weimar government, but also a desire for vengeance against, Britain, France, and the USA, who are the ones who put them in this situation. So Germany were unified in hatred towards the big three: Britain, France, and